Welcome to our demonstration of the auto-deploy stateless mode, introduced with VMware vSphere version 5.1. Prior to deploying vSphere hosts with auto-deploy, we need to configure the auto-deploy server, the DHCP scope options, and the TFTP home directory. Auto-deploy is bundled with the vCenter server appliance. To enable auto-deploy, we simply log on to the appliance and start the auto-deploy service. Here we can see that the service has already been started. Once started, the service continues to run and restarts each time the appliance reboots. If we prefer to run our auto-deploy server on a Windows host, the installer is included with the vCenter server installation media, and the steps to install and configure it are in the vSphere installation guide. Auto-deploy uses PXE to network boot hosts. This requires configuring a DHCP and TFTP server. On the DHCP server, we need to set the DHCP scope options 66 and 67. Here we set option 66 to the IP address of the TFTP server, and option 67 to the name of the PXE boot file. Next, we need to copy the auto-deploy boot files from the vCenter server into the TFTP home directory. To download the TFTP boot files from vCenter, we will select the vCenter server, click Manage, select Auto-Deploy, and click the link to download the TFTP boot files. A zip archive containing the TFTP boot files will be downloaded. Simply extract this archive into the home directory of the TFTP server. With the auto-deploy server, DHCP, and TFTP servers configured, we will now create a host profile. Here, we are using host 01A as our reference host, and have created the host profile named Stateless. Next, we will configure the rules on the auto-deploy server using Power CLI. Here, we see three simple rules. The Assign Image rule, which will assign the ESXi 5.1 image profile. The Assign Host Profile rule, which will assign the host profile stateless. And the Assign Cluster rule, which will place the hosts into the cluster named Cluster Site A. The auto-deploy server will use these rules for all hosts that boot with an IP address within the range 192.168.110.50 to 192.168.110.60. With the prerequisites in place, we will now use auto-deploy to add a fourth host, named 04A, to the vSphere cluster. Now, when we power on the host 04A, we see that it initiates a network boot where it first contacts the DHCP server to get its network identity. Then, using the DHCP scope options 66 and 67, it passes to the TFTP server where it loads the PXE boot file. The host is then connected to the auto-deploy server, where it loads the ESXi image. Following the boot, the host is automatically added to the vCenter inventory. The first time a host boots, it is placed into a maintenance mode. This is because there is some additional information needed before we can fully configure the host. To provide this missing information, we need to manually apply the host profile. This is done by remediating the host. Here, we can see that vCenter needs IP addresses for the management, vMotion, and storage networks. Because this information is unique to each host, it's not included in the host profile. Here, we have pre-populated the values. After providing the specific values, this information will be saved with the host profile and used on all future reboots. This way, we're able to reboot the host without manual intervention. With the remediation complete and the host compliant with the host profile, we can now take the host out of the maintenance mode. Host 04A is now fully configured to use the auto-deploy stateless mode. Each time the host boots, it will PXE boot over the network, where it will reload the image profile from the auto-deploy server and will be reconfigured using the host profile, together with the host-specific customizations we provided. To demonstrate this, we will now reboot host 04A and see how the host completes the boot and rejoins the cluster with no manual intervention. Here, we see that the host has been disconnected from vCenter during the reboot. When the reboot completes, the host will automatically reconnect and have its configuration reapplied using the host profile. No manual intervention is needed. This concludes our demonstration of the new auto-deploy stateless mode, introduced with VMware vSphere 5.1. Thank you.